Miau und willkommen zurück zu Shinrai, Broken Beyond Despair. Ich habe in einen Guide geguckt, was die ersten 2 Dinge sind, die wir angeben müssen. Ich wäre da nie im Leben drauf gekommen, weil es einfach keinen Sinn macht. Es macht überhaupt keinen Sinn, ich verstehe es nicht. So, wir müssen angeben, nein, Carmen war das nicht. So, als nächstes müssen wir angeben, dass derjenige, der Momoko umgebracht hat, Momoko selbst war. So, bis dahin jetzt erstmal, irgendwie will er den F-Skip gerade nicht machen. Dann müssen wir halt so lange hierhin weiterdrücken. So, diejenige, die Momoko umgebracht hat, war Momoko selbst. So, accuse. So, jetzt kommt das. Momoko hat Selbstmord begangen. Das behalten wir mal im Hinterkopf, ne? Momoko hat sich selbst umgebracht. Ja, ne? Aber nein, Carmen hat niemanden umgebracht, denn das richtige Mastermind. Jetzt kommt's und jetzt bereitet euch drauf vor, es macht unglaublich viel Sinn, das richtige Mastermind, was danach, nachdem Momoko sich erhängt hat, Hiro umgebracht hat, das Mastermind war Momoko. What? Warum? Warum soll man das angeben? Ich sehe es nicht. Ich sehe es einfach nicht. Vielleicht vielleicht leitet mich ja das. Ich habe ja nur diesen ersten Schritt durchgeguckt. Vielleicht erklärt sich mir das ja jetzt von selbst, was da alles abgegangen ist. Aber, also, Leute, hättet ihr daran gedacht, dass Momoko sich umgebracht hat und danach Hiro umgebracht hat? Ich nicht. Hätte ich ehrlich gesagt nicht. Überhaupt nicht. Es sei denn, sie hat ihren Tod eigentlich nur vorgetäuscht. Wait, what? Have you lost your mind? Just a moment ago you just told us Momoko committed suicide, and now you're telling us that she's the one who stabbed Hiro and set Kodoba on fire? How the hell does that work? Is Raiko feeling alright? Or did she hit her head too hard when jumping out of that window? Honestly, Shinpuku-san, es macht halt gar keinen Sinn, that you of all people would say such a thing. Yeah, this really isn't the time for jokes, you know? She ain't joking. She's serious, right? I'm always serious, sagt sie mit den Katzenohren auf. Well, I'm curious how you want to explain this then. It's actually quite simple. I admit that it might appear somewhat ludicrous at first. Yeah, but it makes a lot of sense once you realize that all of us made one big wrong assumption. Dass sie tot war? War sie am Anfang gar nicht tot? We wrongly assumed that Momoko died first. Yep. We wrongly assumed that Momoko died first, when in reality she was the last one to die. Huh. Are you kidding me? Wo führt denn das jetzt? Ich frag mich aber, warum? Was ist denn das Motiv? She was the last one to die? Are you really alright? Basically, what I'm saying is that her initial death during the first blackout was faked. She faked her own death? Yes, that was the only way everything made sense. Momoko had committed suicide, but she was also responsible for everything else that had happened here tonight. And the only way to explain this apparent contradiction was that she had faked her death, went on to stab Hiro, set the basement on fire, and eventually committed suicide for real. Okay. While examining Momoko's body, it had struck me as kinda odd that we had found her hanging from the ceiling. Das heißt aber, dass Hiro mit eingeweiht war, denn Hiro wollte unbedingt alleine mit der, in Anführungszeichen, Leiche sein, damit niemand entdecken konnte, dass sie noch lebt. After all, when we had discovered her earlier, right after the first blackout, Hiro and Kamen had gone into the guest room in order to get her down. Ja, und später hing sie wieder da, das habe ich auch schon gesagt. So how come she was still hanging there with that rope around her neck? Maybe they couldn't get her down and just let her hang there? Nein, sie haben die runtergeholt. No, that's impossible. Why is it impossible? I'd like to know that myself. I'm not just going to take your word for it, especially when it's about something so ridiculous. So, I hope you can prove it. Of course I can. Actually, Barachan can confirm it for us. And so can Rie. Rie and I? Waren wir nicht dabei? Huh? What are you talking about? Yeah, what she said. I ain't got a clue what you mean. Think back when the three of us went upstairs in order to check on Hiro and Kamen. What exactly did we see when we entered the room? Wir haben Hiro gesehen, der irgendwie noch einen Beutel überm Kopf hatte oder sowas. There was Kamen sitting on the floor. And she was raising that knife to stab Hiro. That's about all I could... Warte mal, kann es sein, dass das da nicht Kamen war, sondern Momoko? Das würde auch erklären, warum sie in dem Zimmer nicht mehr hängt. Warum ihre Leiche nicht mehr da ist. Weil sie das gerade ist. That's about all I could... Ah! Did you realize it? Something was missing from that scene. Ja, Momokos Leiche, ne? Or rather, someone. You're right! Momoko's corpse wasn't there. Oh yeah! Jetzt macht's doch irgendwie Sinn. Aber ich frag mich, warum? Wieso? Was hatte Momoko vor? I mean, it was pretty dark and stuff, but I'm sure I would have seen a corpse hanging from the ceiling in the center of the room. Das hat mich halt auch da schon gestört, warum die Leiche nicht da ist. Okay, es macht doch irgendwie Sinn, aber ich sehe das Motiv einfach nicht. Indeed. Back then everything had happened rather quickly, and our attention had obviously been focused on the scene playing out in front of us. Still, in retrospect, I had this nagging feeling as though something had been missing from that scene. And now I knew what it was. Momoko. Ja, das wusste ich auch, dass die da gefehlt hat, deswegen dachte ich eigentlich, das wäre einfach nur ein anderer Raum. Of course, the most logical conclusion was that Hiro and Kamen had lowered her body after all, and maybe put her into a corner of the room, where we hadn't been able to see her. However, that would have been strange too. Yeah. When Taiko and I had run on to the second floor after hearing Kamen scream, Momoko had been hanging from the ceiling again, so... How was that possible? Had someone hanged her a second time? Nein, sie hat sich dann selbst erhängt, ne? I admit that it sounds a little odd, but we can't rule it out. It is perfectly possible that Kamen did it. I mean, we found her in front of that guest room. For whatever reason, she could have decided to hang Momoko again. No, I didn't! I swear I didn't do that! It's okay, Kamen, don't worry. I know you didn't. And I'm going to prove it. Shinpuku! Mika still doesn't get it. Du gettest auch gar nichts eigentlich. Why is Raiko so convenient that Momoko is the culprit and Kamen is innocent? A coup! Didn't Raiko, Rie and Nobara see Kamen kill Hiro? Nein, wahrscheinlich war das sogar Momoko. Yeah, Mika's got a point. The three of us clearly saw it, so... But did we really see it clearly? Huh? Again, think back what we could actually see. Das könnte auch Momoko sein in dem Moment, ne? It was pretty dark inside that guest room, and the person in front of us was wearing a cape and a hat with a rather wide brim. Their face was completely obscured by shadows, das kennen wir schon. We only assumed it was Carmen in the clothes, but can you honestly say that you were able to clearly recognize her face? Nein. I guess I gotta admit that I didn't see her face. It really was too dark. I didn't even recognize Hiro until I stood directly in front of him. Gibt Rie das jetzt hier jedenfalls direkt zu wenigstens, weil wir bezichtigen ja nicht Runa-san jetzt. Runa-chan. Direkt. Now that I think about it, I didn't see Carmen's long ponytail when she jumped out of the window either, so... So, are you really saying that it was Momoko we saw there dressed up as Carmen? I don't know about that. Sure, we couldn't clearly recognize her face, but that doesn't automatically mean that it was Momoko. Well, that may be true. You have to admit that it's at least a possibility. No, it's not. It would only be a possibility if Momoko actually did fake her suicide. But I say that's impossible. I mean, don't you think anyone would have noticed? Getting hanged isn't really something that's easy to fake. And I thought you all saw her hanging there. A coup! Mika definitely saw dead Momoko hanging from the ceiling. And Hiro and Carmen even checked Momoko's pulse and confirmed that Momoko was dead. Es sei denn, Carmen und Hiro waren eingeweiht. See? What you're saying doesn't add up, aber ich verstehe nicht warum. Hiro and Carmen definitely would have noticed. Or are you proposing that Momoko also faked not having a pulse somehow? I have to agree. That just does not seem feasible. And even if you were right, Shinpuku-san, there are so many other things that would have been impossible for Mori-san to accomplish. Runa certainly brought up an interesting point. Fooling Carmen and Hiro would have been hard enough already, but on top of that, we had mysteriously locked and unlocked doors. The dead reception phone, 2 power outages, arson, murder. I had to admit all of that sounded a bit too much for a single person to pull off. Yeah, how the heck would she have done all that by herself? Ja, hat sie gar nicht. That sounds pretty much impossible. She actually had... Hatte sie vielleicht... Also, wenn, sie müsste ja mehrere Accomplices gehabt haben, wenn sie den Puls faken würde. Und das würden dann Hiro und Carmen auf jeden Fall sein. Sie hatte mehrere Accomplices. If it's impossible for her to do all of those things alone, then that would be the only logical consequence, right? I'd say this is getting ridiculous, but we're long past that. Well, how many accomplices did she have then? I want a concrete number, no vague estimates. Oh. Also sie muss mindestens 2 gehabt haben. Mindestens. Ich weiß nicht, ob vielleicht noch ein dritter involviert war. Ist irgendwas passiert, während wir oben waren da und das passiert ist mit, dass Hiro getötet wurde? Da war ja dann Momoko als Carmen verkleidet. Wo war Carmen dann? Das ist die Frage. Hiro war zu dem Zeitpunkt bereits tot. Steckte Kotoba da vielleicht auch noch mit drin? Weil irgendwie sind ja alle außer Carmen am Ende gestorben. Also auch Momoko, die ja das Mastermind war. Und ich verstehe einfach nicht, warum sie ihren eigenen Selbstmord plant. Und warum Hiro dann Accomplice war und sich selbst umbringen lässt. Ich würde fast behaupten, dass Kotoba auch mit dazugehörte. 3? Are you serious? Including Momo herself, that would be almost half a group. Seriously. Don't you think that sounds a bit absurd? No. She definitely had 3 accomplices. I can't believe I'm even asking this, but who would those accomplices be? It shouldn't be hard to figure out if you go by process of elimination. It's actually rather obvious, I'd say. Just to fake her suicide, Momoko already needed the help of 2 people. And naturally those 2 were the same ones who confirmed her death. Hiro and you, Carmen. Ah. Without you it would have never worked. Genau. Aber warum hat Hiro sich dann selbst umbringen lassen? Yes, when we had discovered Momoko after the first blackout, Hiro and Carmen had been the only ones to get close to her. Mika and Runa had stayed outside the room and Barachan and I had left to call for help. Rie and Taiko had never even seen her back then. In other words, none of us had ever confirmed Momoko's death for ourselves. Und währenddessen muss irgendjemand muss ja währenddessen das Telefon gecuttet haben, ne? Just like Mika had simply taken Hiro's and Carmen's words for granted. I had believed her when she had brought the news. You can forget about the phone now? Momoko is dead. That can't be. Mika, tell me that's not true. Mika doesn't lie. But if you don't want to believe Mika, why don't you go take a look at yourselves? Because of the second blackout, we had never actually gotten a chance to do that. But we should have. Ja, hätten wir wohl. Not confirming Momoko's death for myself had been an elementary mistake. Okay, I guess that would make sense, but who's the third accomplice then? Ja, Das ist eine gute Frage. Könnte Kodoba sein. Jetzt bin ich gerade wieder rausgetappt. So, ja gut, funktioniert noch alles. Danke. Ich würde sagen, es war Kotoba, weil der ja auch verschwunden ist. Und der wäre halt auch der Nächste, der sich dann auslöschen lässt. If I consider the victims as well as what had happened and what Momoko, Hiro and Carmen had been unable to do, there was only one other person who came into question. Ich meine, der war am Ende war Kotoba im Breaker Room und hat da das Ding ausschalten können. Na? Kotoba. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Why the hell would Kotoba help her with that? Faking her death, killing Hiro, getting himself burned and blaming everything on Carmen? Vielleicht ist er nicht davon ausgegangen, dass er verbrannt wird. Das würde ich jetzt schon mal so sagen. Er ist davon ausgegangen, ihr zu helfen, aber nicht, dass er danach dabei stirbt. Natürlich hat er was davon, Hiro zu töten. Weil er in sie verknallt war und Hiro ihm quasi im Weg stand. Why would any of those 3 help her with that? Don't you realize how utterly absurd this is? Ja, ist es. Ich weiß auch nicht, warum die das tun sollten. Come on, they obviously didn't know about Momoko's true intentions. She fooled them. Okay, also sie wollte... Sie war es, die gesagt hat, komm, wir pranken die mal richtig hart zurück und tun so, als ob ich tot bin. Und dann hat sie angefangen, Leute tatsächlich zu ermorden. Just like she fooled every single one of us. And how exactly did she do that? By telling them That it was just going to be a harmless prank, of course. A prank? Yes, the idea of a prank had been brought up in multiple occasions tonight. Originally, Rie and Runa had wanted to play one on us. A rather morbid one at that, pretending that one of them would kill the other. Genau dieses Gespräch hatten wir nämlich, als Hiro das Mastermind war quasi. Nur, dass es tatsächlich Momoko war und wir halt das Ganze falsch eingeschätzt hatten. Aber warum bringt sie sich am Ende dann trotzdem selbst um? Originally, Rie and Runa had wanted to play on us. Genau. Thanks to Carmen, who had been involved in the party preparations, Momoko might have learned about that prank. After the first blackout, when I had told Mika and Rie wanted to scare us upon... Was? When I had told Mika that Rie wanted to scare us upon our return to the dining hall, she had immediately wanted to devise a counterattack in order to turn the tables on our host. Now, what if Momoko had proposed the exact same thing to her friends? Playing a prank as morbid as Rie's and Runa's on the rest of us? A prank that involved one of them dying? That's insane! Even if they had thought it was just going to be a prank, they would have never helped her with something like that. Especially not Kodoba. Why not? Carmen was Momoko's best friend, so it's not that hard to imagine that she would have helped her. And you know what Hiro was like? Of course he would have been up for it, if only to prove that he could play a better prank than Rie. As for Kodoba, you said it yourself earlier. Ja, Momoko war sein number one girl. I know he's a fool and I know he does a lot of really stupid stuff, but this... As long as there's no cute girls waiting as a reward for him, he wouldn't go through all that trouble. Yeah, and speaking of cute girls, I mean, he's got a thing for nearly every girl in our class, but Momoko always has been the number one on his list. Genau das. Hat es für Momoko getan. Given his personality, there was no way he would have said no to Momoko. On the contrary, he would have gladly done anything for her, don't you think? Yes, none of them would have objected to the idea, and that's what Momoko used to her advantage. By telling them they were going to play a prank on us, she could get them to unknowingly help achieve her true goal. So, you're saying that she purposely chose all of her victims as accomplices and then manipulated them into bringing forth their own demise? Exactly. He was looking at me like I was out of my mind, but I was confident in my theory. If Momoko was behind all this, it would have explained everything, even why Carmen hadn't told us the name of the real culprit. She had known that no one would have believed her. Just like no one wanted to believe me right now. Jo. Okay. Aber warum macht Momoko das, ist immer noch die Frage. Was hat sie davon? Vor allem, weil sie am Ende dann selber tot ist. I know that Carmen is the only possible suspect in your eyes, which makes it hard to trust her words. But how about we just give her a chance to explain herself? If anyone would know the truth, it's her, right? He didn't seem happy with his proposal, but since he didn't say anything against it, I simply took that as an okay and turned to Carmen. Once again, everyone's attention shifted towards her as she began to explain. It's just as Shinpuku said. Hiro, Kodoba, and I, we helped Momoko fake her suicide. We helped her fool all of you into thinking that she was dead. So it really was supposed to be a prank then? Yes. Remember how I overheard you and Runa talking about your Halloween party at school? You two mentioned something about a prank to shock all of us, especially Shinpuku. I walked up to you guys and asked if I could be part of it. In return, I promised not to tell anyone about your plans, but... You did. You told Momoko. Yes, I told her the same day after school on our way home. Petzer. And then 2 days later, when we were at the park... Hey, Carmen. You know, I've been thinking about what you told me regarding Rie and Runa's Halloween party. You know, the whole thing about their prank? Yes. What about it? How about we play a prank on them ourselves? Aber warum musst du gleich dann anfangen, Leute zu töten? Huh? Are you serious? Of course. They'll never expect that. I already have a really neat idea. Oh? I'll tell you later when we meet up with Hiro. Gonna have to involve him too. This is gonna be fun. Later that day she told us her plan. Hiro was all for it, of course. He wanted to prove that he could pull off a much better prank than Rie. I wasn't so sure about the whole thing though. I mean, pretending that one of us had died. I already thought that was a little mean when you proposed it. Then again, since you were planning the exact same thing, I thought it would kinda serve you right. And in the end, I just couldn't say no to Momo. I see. But how does Kodoba fit into all of this? I thought Hiro hated him, and Momoko didn't really like him that much either, did she? So why did you guys team up with him? Or was Raiko-chan wrong about that? No, she's right about that too. It surprised me as well when Momo told us that she wanted to involve Kodoba. However, she said that we needed the help of at least one more person. We obviously couldn't ask you or Runa, and the others, especially Taiko and Shinpuku, would have never agreed to it. That only really left Kodoba, and well, he was easy to win over anyway. Just like Shinpuku said, he was as ecstatic to be of help. Hab ihn einfach ausgenutzt. Anyway, like I said, it was all supposed to be a prank. I had no idea of Momo's true intentions. I would have never thought that she wanted to kill Hiro, Kodoba, and even herself. And then blame everything on me. Yeah, that's really hard to believe. Vor allem, warum wollte sie das? That she, of all people... It really did seem inconceivable. To imagine that Momoko had come up with such a devious plan. Not only had she wanted to kill Hiro and Kodoba, she had even manipulated them into helping her with that. And to top it all off, she had tried to frame Carmen, her best friend, for it. This picture of her, the picture of a cruel, calculating murderer. It simply didn't fit together with the picture of her that slowly evolved over the course of the last few months, ever since the school year started. I guess it was just like Carmen had said earlier tonight. A book cannot be judged by its cover. Still, even though I knew this was the truth, I couldn't bring myself to believe it. Naja, couldn't judge a book by its cover. Ich meine, guckt euch Momoko an. Sie hat schon die perfekte Haarfarbe, um eine Yandere zu sein. So viel dazu, sie könnte keine Mörderin sein, ne? And neither can I. Du glaubst es immer noch nicht? I can't believe any of this. Especially not the words of a suspect. But I'm telling the truth. That's what you say, but for all we know, you could be adapting to Raiko's little story in order to push the blame on Momoko. Besides, words alone aren't going to convince me anyway. I want to see actual proof that Momoko was behind all this. Oh, you mean like you showed us actual proof that Carmen killed her? Genau. Don't worry. Unlike you, I do possess the necessary evidence to support my claims. If you want me to, I can prove it to you right here, right now. But I want you to apologize to Carmen first. She might be innocent, you know. Or do you have any actual proof that she's the culprit? Huh? Taiko didn't reply. He knew as well as I that there was no such proof. I had to admit that at first glance, it looked as though Carmen was the culprit, but in the end, that was also nothing more than an assumption. an assumption mostly based on the testimony of 3 witnesses. It had already been proven that these testimonies were anything but reliable, though. After all, none of us had been able to recognize the face of the person we had seen. Of course, there was still the fact that Carmen had been missing for a long period of time, but even though it did make her look suspicious, it didn't really prove anything either. Wäre schön, wenn du wenigstens das sagen könntest, was du da gemacht hast in der Zeit, um dich zu entlasten. And in case of Momoko's death, you didn't even have anything at all. You said that since Carmen probably did all those other bad things, she must have also killed Momoko. That was basically your line of reasoning, wasn't it? Ja, quasi, dass er gesagt hat, sie hat das und das getan, wofür es keine Beweise gibt, deswegen muss sie auch Momoko getötet haben. I have to admit I was rather unreasonable, so I apologize about that. It might be a poor excuse, but all I could think about was Kodoba. I was angry. I still am. And I vented all my anger on you without actually thinking about the whole thing. Without having any actual proof of your guilt. That was wrong. Raiko. I mean, one of us has to be the culprit, and even now you're the most likely candidate. At least to me. Still, I shouldn't have lashed out at you like that. You're a classmate. A friend. Precisely because I see you as such, it should be my duty to consider all possibilities before jumping to conclusions. I can't believe I let my emotions get the better of me like that. I'm really sorry, Carmen. But I've cooled down now, and I'm willing to listen. In the end, all I want to know is the truth. So how about this? Raiko-chan? Yes? I want to know exactly what happened here tonight, so we're going through everything together from start to finish until we arrive at the truth. You claim to have reached it, but I'm still skeptical. Nevertheless, I'll give you a chance to explain yourself. Don't get me wrong, though. As I said, I still think that Carmen's the most likely suspect, but if you can't prove me wrong, that's fine by me. I'm sure you have no objections. Sounds good to me. Jetzt bin ich mal gespannt, was soll denn bitte schön Momokos Motiv sein? Ich verstehe das Motiv immer noch nicht. Let's do it. Alright, let's find out the truth then. All of us. Together. And this time will be as thorough as can be, so that we can get to a conclusion that doesn't leave any room for doubt. While he said this, Taiko looked at the others, who seemed a little surprised, but quickly gave him a collective nod, their eyes brimming with determination. Only Carmen kept looking around with a confused expression on her face, almost as though she was unsure whether she was dreaming or not. Don't worry, Carmen. I'll prove your innocence, I promise. Just hang in there a little longer. Shinpuku, why? Why are you doing this for me? The look in her eyes. Was it really that hard for her to believe? Well, I guess it was a little weird. I mean, she had always treated me like crap, while I had done my best to ignore her. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that there had come a day when I tried to help her like this. Still, I'm doing this because I know the truth, and because I cannot stand by and watch how someone is wrongly accused of a crime they did not commit. Okay. Ich bin gespannt auf die Erklärung von allem. To be quite honest, that wasn't the whole truth. It wasn't just because I knew she was innocent and felt like it was my duty to clear things up. I really wanted to help her. Genuinely help her. From the bottom of my heart. Of course, there was no way in hell I could tell her that. I didn't even really know myself why I felt that way. Maybe it was because of all this felt so familiar. Because she reminded me of someone. Someone from long ago. Was sind das immer für Anspielungen auf früher? Shinpuku, you're back. You're finally back. Was soll das denn heißen? What was she talking about? I was back? When had I ever been gone? I had no clue what was going on, but before I could ponder this question any further... Hey, let's not waste any more time, okay? There's a lot of things to talk about and I'd like to clear this up before the police arrive, so... Was war das denn gerade für ein seltsamer... Hä? Yes, of course. He was right. It would have been best to have this solved before the police arrive, so we could give them the name of the real culprit. Besides, everyone seemed rather eager to hear my deductions, so... Ich möchte ganz gerne nochmal speichern zwischendurch, bevor ich jetzt noch was verkacke. Wäre ganz gut, das zu wissen vorher, ne? Without further ado, it was time to solve all those mysteries we had encountered tonight and, in doing so, get to the bottom of this terrifying tragedy. A new diary entry has been added. Like Taiko had suggested, we began to go through tonight's events in chronological order. Not only did this make everything more comprehensible for the others, it also made it a lot easier to explain for me. Since everything had started with it, the first thing to talk about was the first power outage, of course. We now knew that it had been part of Rie's Halloween program, and that due to being involved in the preparations, Carmen had known about it beforehand. Not only that, she had also mentioned it to Momoko, who had then decided to utilize it for her own plan. Ja, und Hiro war genauso eingeweiht in diesen Plan und hatte die Möglichkeit, das aufzuschließen. At least according to my theory. However, whether I was right or not, one thing was for certain. During that blackout, Momoko had suddenly run up to the second floor and into the only unlocked guest room, which posed our first big problem. This goddamn room on the second floor. Why the heck was it unlocked anyways, weil du die Schlüssel an Hiro weitergegeben hast? It is indeed puzzling. Nein, gar nicht. Miyamoto-san and I made perfectly sure that every single guest room was locked. And as you should know, only Miyamoto-san is in possession of the keys. Not only no one but her could have unlocked it. Right, the question of who unlocked the guest room. By now the answer to it was quite obvious, at least to me. There was only one person who could have done it. Hiro! Shiratake's son unlocked it? But how? And when? During dinner? Shortly after you left the table, Hiro came to us and wollte pissen, wie es in seinen Worten, ne? Genau, hier, guck mal. Ich muss pissen, gib mir einen Schlüssel. Das hat er so gesagt, wortwörtlich. Right, he borrowed my keys to unlock the restrooms on the first floor. Or so he said. Well, I was pretty sure I had unlocked them, so... Did he lie to me? Yes, the restrooms were just an excuse to get your keys. In reality, he needed them to unlock the second floor guest room. And you can prove that? The room being open could still be an oversight by Rie and Runa. Or Rie was lying to us and purposely left it open. Or she accidentally left it open and Runa consciously didn't say anything about it. Hey! What exactly are you implying here? I'm merely listing various other possibilities to illustrate that it's not that simple. All I'm saying is that if we're going to assume things right off the bat, I'm not sure if we should continue this. Naja. I had to admit he had a point. I had presented the possibility that Hiro had unlocked the guest room, but it wasn't the only one. Since we had decided to go for the truth, we couldn't leave any room for doubt. Besides, if I could prove that Hiro had been behind it, it certainly would have boosted my theory's credibility. The question just was, how exactly was I going to do it? There was no direct way to prove that he had used the keys on the guest room, so all I could do was show that Hiro had lied to us about the purpose of borrowing them. That Rie hadn't simply made a mistake and that she actually had unlocked the restrooms. But how? Ich würde ganz gern durch meine Sachen nochmal durchgucken. Ich habe nämlich gerade irgendwie sowas im Hinterkopf und bin mir nicht sicher, ob das stimmt. Aber wenn ich mich recht entsinne, ganz am Anfang, als wir hier hingekommen sind, kam Mika da nicht aus dem Klo, was ja heißt, dass sie zu dem Zeitpunkt aufgeschlossen sein mussten. Oder? Demnach hätten wir ja einen Zeugen dafür, dass es aufgeschlossen war. Ich bin mir nur gerade überhaupt nicht sicher, ob das so war, aber ich meine, das so in Erinnerung zu haben. I have a witness. You have a witness. Well, then tell us who it is. Mika, weil ich meine, die wäre am Anfang aus dem Klo gekommen und hat sich angeschlichen. Mika? A coup! Mika only remembered herself just now, but she can confirm that Hiro lied about the toilets, because Mika used them to pee shortly before Raiko and Nobara arrived. Yes, when Runa had led us through the corridor to the dining hall, Mika had suddenly appeared from behind in order to startle us, after leaving the restrooms. Habe ich doch richtig in Erinnerung gehabt. Dass mir das nicht direkt da aufgefallen ist, wo Hiro das gesagt hat, dass die Türen abgeschlossen sind, ne? Da habe ich da noch gar nicht dran gedacht. Das ist mir nur jetzt gerade irgendwie wieder komisch eingefallen. Und ich war mir nicht mal sicher, ob es so war. Das war so ein ganz kleines Detail nebenbei. Kuckuckuckucku. Did Mika give you a good scare? Yeah, sure did. Where the heck did you even come from? Mika just came from the toilet when she saw you and thought as if they will make for some easy targets. Genau, das hat sie da gesagt. Das ist nur in einem Satz erwähnt worden. In einem kleinen Satz. That's what you said, right? That's what you said, right? A coup! Mika sneakily snuck from behind after Raiko and Nobara passed the toilet. They had no idea what hit them. So the restrooms were already unlocked at the time. Cool! So unlocked, if you wanted to unlock them more, you would have needed to remove the door. That even rhymes, so it's gotta be true. Ja, so funktioniert das, ne? Sobald Sachen sich reimen, stimmt das einfach. Ich gehe um den Teich und ich bin reich. Das reimt sich. Ich bin reich. Es stimmt. And since that was long before Hiro borrowed the keys, it should make perfectly clear that he lied to us. Which is very suspicious, don't you think? If he didn't need the keys to unlock the restrooms, then it's highly likely that he used them for something else. Okay, I admit that it does sound like he could be the one who unlocked the guest room. That would also explain how Momoko learned about it. Hiro could have simply told her. Although that still wouldn't explain how she managed to find it during the blackout. Und dann war diese Geschichte halt auch was sich Momoko ausgedacht hat, ne? Und sie hat Hiro gesagt, dass er diese Geschichte erzählen soll, damit dieser ganze Plan und so alles vonstatten geht. Although that still would explain how she managed to find it during the blackout. Indeed. Even if Shiratake-san had told Mori-san the room number, it was pitch black during the power outage. So how exactly did she find the correct room? She would not have been able to read the number plates. Maybe she just checked every room until she found the right one? No, she didn't have time for that. She was being followed. Yes. Furthermore, once the lights went back on, we found her hanging from the ceiling with a rope around her neck. Whether she faked her death, actually committed suicide, or was murdered, somehow that rope had to be attached to the ceiling and tied into a noose. Vielleicht hatte sie ein Handy? All of it in complete darkness, as well as under a time limit. After all, it was unclear how long you and Jinpoku-san would need to switch the power back on. That was definitely true. The rope that had been used was the same one Momoko had worn around her waist as part of her costume. Therefore, it couldn't have been prepared in advance by Hiro when he had unlocked the guest room. So how had Momoko conducted her fake suicide in absolute darkness? That certainly sounded hard to pull off unless... Maybe it actually wasn't pitch black inside the guest room. Da war nämlich eine Kerze. Maybe Momoko did have some light in there. Wir haben doch einen Kerzentisch da gefunden, ne? Yes, there was something that had quickly let her know which guest room to enter and which had given her enough light to prepare everything for her suicide. Wir haben den Glass Table, wo die Kerze drauf steht. There's a used candle sitting on top of it. A glass table? What about it? It's not much about the table as it is about what's on it. What are you referring to, Jinpoku-san? There was a candle on top of it, burned halfway down. The molten wax literally glued it to the glass surface, which means that it must have been burning there for quite some time. I sincerely doubt that the resort staff would leave it there like that, so it must have been placed there tonight. Most likely by Hiro when he unlocked the room for Momoko. I see. If a lit candle was placed inside the room and the door left open, it would have been easy to find during the power outage. And it might have provided enough light to prepare the rope and whatnot. So, Shiratake-san unlocked the guest room and provided a way for Mori-san to easily find it? I cannot help but wonder if all of this wasn't a little too risky. Vor allem verstehe ich auch immer noch nicht, was Momokos Motiv ist. Ich will es einfach wissen. What if any of those following Mori-san had managed to catch up with her? Naja, von denen waren ja 2 alleine schon Komplizen. Due to my kimono, I cannot run that fast, especially not in the dark, so the same must have applied to Mori-san. Ja, aber sie hat ja die Dinger aufgeschnitten. I understand that you are accusing Shiratake-san and Aiga-san of being her accomplices, but what if Kikai-san or Miyamoto-san had chased after her? Both of them are pretty fast runners. If they had managed to catch up with her, the plan would have been an instant failure. I think she knew very well that wasn't going to happen. How? First of all, thanks to hearing about Rie's plans from Carmen, Momoko already knew that Barachan and I would be in the basement and wouldn't be able to follow her. We all know how obsessed Mika is with trying to startle me, so it was easy to guess that she'd follow us. As for you, Taiko, there was a simple trick to make sure you wouldn't leave the dining hall. Wait, you don't mean... Yes, Kodo Bar, der ja eingeweiht war, ne? The moment the lights went out, he pretended to fall and hurt himself. That way, he could make sure that you wouldn't leave his side. So that's why you were saying that Momoko needed him as an accomplice? Not only for that, but we'll get to the other reasons soon. In any case, the point here is that there was no way you could have left the dining hall to run after Momoko. Yeah. But what about me? What if I had followed her? Not to toot my own horn, but as Runa said, I am pretty fast runner. Well, she said she had a head start and knew where she needed to go. You, on the other hand, had no idea. Moreover, you need to consider the following. Runa, what exactly did you do again before you're actually running upstairs? First I checked the kitchen, and then while Shiratake-san went to the reception to look for Mori-san, he wanted Aiga-san and me to check the restroom. Genau, der hat sie beschäftigt, ne? Ah! Yes, her accomplices. Hiro and Carmen were there to slow you down and buy Momoko some time. She didn't need that much anyway. Once she was inside the guest room and had closed the door, she was safe. Yeah, after all, we were sure that all the guest rooms were locked, so it would have never crossed our minds to check if Momoko was hiding in any of them. So far I gotta admit that everything's making sense. At least I'm not seeing any big issues. However, now comes the important part. Momoko's suicide. You're saying that she faked it, but there are a few other possibilities. Hiro could have killed her, for example. Yeah, after unlocking the guest room, he told Momoko about it and somehow got her to head there during the blackout. Ja, in 209. She went into the specified room, closed the door and then simply waited there for him. Of course the others chased after her, but Runa couldn't keep up, so Hiro and Carmen went on ahead. When they arrived upstairs, he sent Carmen to the 3rd floor to search for Momoko, telling her that he would check the sound. The second. The sound, welchen Sound? Okay. Once Carmen was gone, it should have been easy for him to reach the guest room before Runa was able to catch up. Und dann soll er sie getötet haben? He went inside, killed Momoko and let it look like suicide. Then, he only had to wait for the right moment to leave. Aber warum ist er denn selber gestorben? Since Runa was shouting Momoko's name while she was walking down the dark corridor, he should have been able to determine her position by her voice. Yeah. After waiting for her to pass by, he used the darkness to his advantage and slipped out of the room unnoticed. Das war ja unsere Theorie. Das war ja unsere Theorie für den Fall, dass Hiro der Mörder war. Genau. Aber war er ja nicht. Once that happened, he just needed to pretend to find the corpse alongside the others. If I recall correctly, he was also the one shouting orders around, getting everyone busy. He probably didn't want anyone to take a closer look at the room. Ja, weil man sonst bemerkt hätte, dass Momoko noch lebt. Which is also why he kicked out Carmen, saying that he wanted to be alone for a while. He needed to make sure that there was no evidence left behind pointing to him as the killer. That would also explain the cut phone cord. He could have done it himself when he checked the reception for Momoko. Most likely because he didn't want the police to be called soon. A coup? While Mika has to admit that Taiko's theory sounds pretty nifty, it has one fatal flaw. Hiro was later killed himself. So wouldn't that mean that there were 2 killers? Exactly. And the other killer could only be one person, of course. Carmen. Also diese Theorie ist das jetzt, ne? Aber die muss ich jetzt widerlegen. So now he was bringing up the very same theory I had come with up earlier, huh? The one about Hiro killing Momoko and then Carmen killing Hiro for revenge. The two of them had been alone up there for quite a while. Even though Carmen was supposed to have been waiting outside, she could have entered the guest room at any time, since Hiro wouldn't have been able to lock it without the keys. It was easy to imagine that she had caught him doing something suspicious, or by some other means had come to the conclusion that he killed her best friend. And then she confronted him about it. Whether it happened in the heat of the moment or because she consciously decided to take revenge, she ended up killing him. And that's the moment Rikun, Raiko-chan and Nobara-chan witnessed they went to check on them. witnessed when they went to check on them. So, as you can see, it's perfectly possible that Hiro killed Momoko, but that he was then killed by Carmen. Ja, dann sehe ich allerdings einen Flaw immer noch. Warum sollte Carmen, nachdem sie offensichtlich dabei gesehen wurde, wie sie jemanden umgebracht hat und geflohen ist, wieder zurückkommen? Das macht ja überhaupt keinen Sinn. Das ist ja so, als würdest du aus einem Gefängnis ausbrechen und dir dann denken, oh, jetzt gehe ich aber wieder rein. Es macht ja gar keinen Sinn. Curses, clearing Carmen of suspicion wasn't going to be that easy, huh? But getting me back down wasn't going to be that easy either. Even though his little theories seemed to make sense, I knew that it wasn't what had actually occurred. I just had to somehow prove that to him. Anywho, I like to think this makes a little more sense than what you've told us. After all, as I've said before, it's kinda hard to imagine that hanging from a ceiling with a rope around your neck could be faked. A coup! Mika has to agree. Momoko was definitely hanging. Her body was even swinging from side to side. No way Momoko could have faked that. Das war im Dunkeln und da waren, glaube ich, Sandalenspuren von ihren Sandalen auf dem Glastisch. Den hätte man im Dunkeln wahrscheinlich nicht gesehen. Das heißt, wahrscheinlich hat sie da gar nicht gehangen, sondern stand einfach nur auf dem Tisch. Ah, that was right. When we had discovered her, Momoko's body had been moving in this slight swinging motion, almost like a pendulum. I could certainly see why the others had trouble believing that she had faked her death, but she had. And if I could prove that to them now, there would be no reason left for them not to consider my theory a legitimate possibility. So, I admit that this was probably the trickiest part of Momoko's plan. If any of us had noticed something was off, it would have ruined everything. And that's precisely what she needed Carmen and Hiro as why she needed Carmen and Hiro as her accomplices. Genau, die mussten sie abhängen, quasi, ne? Remember what we could actually see when we arrived at the guest room. Hiro and Carmen were already standing right in front of the door, basically blocking the entrance. They blocked out most of the view with their capes, so all we really got to see was Momoko's upper body. For all we know, she could have been standing on some kind of pedestal. What? That's your explanation? She just stood on something? Are you kidding me? That almost sounds too simple, wouldn't you think? Naja, aber... Seit wann hat sie diese Fledermaus auf dem Kopf? Hier, die hat... Seit wann hat sie das auf dem Kopf? Das hatte sie vorher nicht, oder? Mir fällt das zumindest erst jetzt auf. Ach, das gehört zur Hintergrunddekoration. Das gehört einfach zur Hintergrunddekoration. Ich dachte gerade, was ist denn das für ein neuer Hut, den sie da aufhat? What would she have been standing on anyway? Der glass table. That glass table again. The candle was not the only thing I found on top of it. There were also footprints, or sandal prints to be precise. The only two people wearing sandals here tonight were Momoko and Runa, since they were part of their costumes, so only one of them could have left them there. And you're saying it was Momoko when she climbed on top of it in order to fake her suicide? Precisely. Ich meine, welchen Grund sollte denn Runa gehabt haben, da drauf zu klettern? The table is of rather low height, similar to the dinner tables around here, I'd say. Now imagine Momoko standing on top of it. Yeah, of course this would have been extremely obvious, but don't forget that Hiro and Carmen were purposely blocking the view. So, Since we couldn't see the lower half of Momoko's body, it appeared as though she was levitating slightly above the ground. I guess so. There is also one other thing I should probably mention. Es war dunkel. The prints left by her footwear were much clearer than those left by the rest of her feet. In other words, her weight was resting solely on her forefeet, which meaning that she was standing on her toes for a while. But why? Ja, damit's noch mehr aussieht, als ob sie hängt, ne? Because of the noose. If it was purposely hanging a little high, so that she had to get onto her toes in order to put her head through, it would look like the rope was pulling at her neck. The swinging motion could have been easily simulated with careful movements of her body. Since we only got to see the upper half of it, no one would have noticed anything. And that's how you can fake hanging yourself. But wait a sec! What if someone would have just peeked through Carmen's and Hiro's legs? They would have clearly seen the table. No, they wouldn't have. Weil's dunkel war. Dunkel war es, der Mond schien heller, wie es so schön heißt, ne? First of all, since the table is made entirely of glass, it's hard to see in a dark room. And as you might recall, the guest room itself was pitch black. Furthermore, Hiro and Carmen were both wearing capes. Pretty long capes, actually. So long, in fact, that they almost touched the floor. Ja, damit haben sie das gesamte Licht quasi verdeckt, was am unteren Teil des Raumes hätte reinkommen können, ne? I have to admit that I was unable to see anything through their legs. After I collapsed to my knees, I could not peek further into the rooms because Aiga-san's and Shiratake-san's capes blocked almost the entire view, and what little I could see was obscured by darkness. Therefore, I cannot say whether Mori-san was standing on anything or not. As for the rest of us, we were naturally quite shocked and our attention was mainly drawn to Momoko's face. Ich muss mich ja an dieser Stelle bei Runa entschuldigen, dass ich sie die ganze Zeit verdächtigt habe, einfach ihr Kostüm getauscht zu haben zwischendurch und so einen Scheiß gemacht zu haben. Sie ist ja scheinbar wirklich unschuldig. As the rest of us, we were naturally quite shocked and our attention was mainly drawn to Momoko's face. Or rather the rope around her neck. No one cared about her feet, and we didn't really get enough time to look at anything else anyway, after letting us merely catch a glimpse at her. Dann sind die schon reingelaufen und wollten sie abhängen, ne? Maybe it's not too late. We have to get her down. Now. You're right. You there. Go call an ambulance. And tell Rie what happened to you. She's still downstairs in the dining hall. Ja, so hat er uns alle weggeschickt, ne? Get her, quick! They made sure to quickly divert our attention and get rid of us, so that we didn't get the chance to notice something was off. Isn't that so, Carmen? Yes, you're absolutely right. Since you are quite sharp, we sent you and Nobara away to call for an ambulance. We would have just told Mika and Runa to wait outside, but luckily for us, Runa was so shocked that we could have Mika take care of her. That made everything a lot easier. Hiro and I quickly entered the room and closed the door behind us, of course. A few moments later, I left by myself to tell the others that Momoko was dead. And they simply bought it. Und so ging der Prank dann seinen Weg, ne? It got quiet again as everyone sunk deep into thought, processing what they had just heard, and pondering whether or not it could be true. While I could see that it was probably a little hard to swallow, they had to at least admit now that Momoko faking her suicide was a possibility. The footprints on the glass table certainly indicated as much. I don't know about that. They could have also been left there when Momoko committed actual suicide. She simply could have used the table as a platform to jump from. The footprints can't really be seen as a conclusive proof that she faked it. This guy sure was persistent, wasn't he? Unfortunately, he was right. Ja, das habe ich mir auch gerade gedacht. Besides, even if I managed to prove it to be a possibility, that wasn't quite good enough. If I couldn't prove that it had actually happened that way, all of this was pointless. Anywho, I don't think discussing this point will get us any further, so for now let's move on. What exactly happened next? Well, while Raiko-chan and I were looking for a phone, we met up with Rie and went to the reception. That's when we realized the phone cord was cut. So, was that hero's work now, or what? Because of Raiko-chan's theory, if Raiko-chan's theory is true, and he thought they were just going to play a prank, why exactly would he do that? Isn't that going a bit too far for a prank? No. Even if he thought it was just going to be a prank, he still had to do it. Aber warum? Huh? He sent us to call for an ambulance, but even if he hadn't, one of us would have tried calling once as well as our parents. Ja, und die können doch nicht einfach riskieren, dass man einen Fehlalarm auslöst, ne? Weil das wird teuer. However, if we had done that, that would have caused all sorts of trouble. Oh, yeah. I thought they would have been too thrilled to learn that it was just a prank after coming all the way out here. Yes, Hiro didn't want a mere prank to go out of proportion like that. Why didn't he just unplug the cord, though? Because we could have just plugged it back in. That literally wouldn't have cut it. Okay, I guess that's true. But wait. The reception phone was obviously our first choice, but it's not like it's the only one in the entire resort. And that's why there was another blackout. Genau. To prevent us from using any of the other phones. But it took a while until the second blackout actually occurred. What if we had gone straight to the manager's office, for example? But we didn't. Because Mika and Runa came downstairs to us to tell us about Momoko's death. Naturally, we immediately went to the second floor to take a look for ourselves, which gave a certain someone more than enough time to turn the power off before any of us could use any of the other phones. And by now it should have been obvious to everyone who that certain someone had been. Ja, natürlich Kotoba, der war ja auch da drin bis zum Ende. I guess even I can't deny it anymore. Kotoba obviously lied to me. Not only once but twice. First about hurting himself and then about going to the restrooms. So that's the other reason Momoko needed him as an accomplice, huh? Yes. He went into the breaker room, locked the window, pushed the closest closet in front of the door and turned the power off. Warte mal, hat er den Schrank davor geschoben, wo die dicke, fette Spinne dran hing? Ih. And then he just waited down there. Ja. Und natürlich hat er das Fenster für Momoko aufgemacht, als sie kam, ne? Macht Sinn. All for Momoko, without realizing that she was planning to kill him soon. Okay, that explains why we couldn't enter the breaker room, but there's something I've been wondering about. If all Kotoba did was push the closet in front of the door, I still should have been able to use my keys. Yeah. So why didn't they fit into the lock? I think I know the answer to that now. Again, it's really simple. Irgendwas steckte im Schlüsselloch fest. What? Isn't that a little too simple again? So, do all mysteries need a really complex solution? I guess not, but does it really come that much as a surprise? According to Runa, you faced the very same problem just recently. She told us about it when we examined the back exit in the dining hall. Genau. The other day, when we were decorating the hall, Miyamoto-san somehow managed to break off the key when locking these doors. What? The blade is still stuck inside the lock. Of course, we tried to get it out, but we were unable to do so. So, until Locksmith takes care of it, this lock will stay, well, locked. Das ist halt das, wofür ein Lock auch da ist, ne? You gotta be kidding me. Genau das ist damals passiert. Damals vor all den Jahren. Using a thin strand of wire or something similar should have sufficed. If you don't want to accept this explanation, we could just go take a look to confirm it. No, it's fine. Can't think of any other explanation anyways. But why do that in the first place? Wouldn't pushing the closet in front of the door have been enough? Nein, weil man euch denken machen wollte, dass es abgeschlossen wäre. No. You had your keys with you. If you could have used them to lock and unlock the door, we would have immediately realized what's up. That it was only blocked. And then we would have tried breaking it down much sooner. Anywho, the lock's one of our lesser worries. We can take a closer look at it later. For now, let's move on. What comes next is a lot more important. Indeed. After realizing that we couldn't get into the breaker room, Barra-chan, Rie, and I had returned to the dining hall. We had told the others about everything and conducted our little questioning round, which had eventually led to an argument. Frustrated about the murder accusations, Runa had left to head for the restrooms in order to cool down a little. Barra-chan, Rie, and I had followed her shortly afterwards. Originally, Rie had wanted to check on her friend, but had then decided to go check on Hiro and Kamen first. Ja, und dann ist das passiert. Which had resulted in the three of us witnessing that gruesome scene. Because of the costume, we assumed the person in front of us to be Kamen. However, according to you, it was Momoko in disguise. Momoko knew that sooner or later, someone was going to check on Hiro and Kamen again, so wearing Kamen's costume, she waited there until the door would open. Genau. So she could stab Hiro right in front of her eyes, making believe that Kamen did it. That's why Kamen isn't wearing her hat and cape now. Momoko asked you to give them to her, didn't she? Yes, but I would have never imagined that she wanted them to frame me for murder. I'm still not convinced about that. But I guess it's time to clear this up once and for all. Who was the person you saw there? There's so much speaking out against it being Momoko that I don't even know which counter-argument to start with. For instance, you said that Momoko was waiting there for someone to open the door so that she could Hiro in front of their eyes. However, I doubt he would have just let that happen. Aber wir wussten, dass er schon tot war. He's right. Who would calmly wait there lying on the floor with someone on top of them holding a knife? Exactly. Which leads us to a single conclusion. Hiro was never actually killed in front of our eyes. She was already dead before we even arrived. What? Why so surprised? You were the one who noticed it first. Ja, sie hat gesagt, dass er nicht geschrien hat. Das kennen wir schon. Genau. He definitely died on the spot. The poor guy couldn't even scream. Not only didn't he scream, he didn't move at all. As you said, it's weird to think he didn't try resisting and fight for his life. Just like it's hard to imagine that he let himself get overpowered like that in the first place, being physically much stronger. So, the only conclusion one could derive from that is that he was already dead before you guys arrived. And in that case, it makes the whole thing we witnessed rather weird, doesn't it? Ja, das wissen wir schon. Warum sollte sie überhaupt da so lange warten? Genau, die sollte davon alarmt sein, aber sie wollte ja jemanden framen. Genau, But despite Hero being dead, das kennen wir alle schon. Which begs the question, why do that and thereby create witnesses, unless it was done on purpose in order to mislead them? Genau. Bingo. They wanted us to assume a false time of death as well as that Carmen was the culprit. Yes, Momoko had carried a hidden knife with her the whole time. Since Hero obviously hadn't suspected anything, it should have been easy to catch him off guard and stab him to death. After the deed was done, she had then simply waited for someone to open the door in order to pretend to kill Hero at the very moment. And thanks to the cape and that, she could also make the onlookers believe that Carmen had done it. Ja, und sie hat sich ja ihren Kimono zerschnitten, damit sie mehr Beinfreiheit hatte. This also explained one other thing, which had seemed kinda random and almost pointless at first. If one considered that Hero had already been stabbed before our arrival, it finally started to make sense. Are you saying you can prove that he was stabbed before? That he wasn't simply knocked out and therefore didn't fight back? Yes. Was soll ich jetzt vorbringen? Wie bitte? Beweis, dass er schon tot war und nicht einfach nur bewusstlos war. Wounds scattered across Hero's chest and stomach. Da waren genug Stichwunden. Wir haben aber eigentlich nur gesehen, wie er einmal gestochen wurde. Da sind mehrere Stichwunden. Wir haben aber nur den Stich in die Kehle gesehen, ne? As you might recall, Hero was covered in countless stab wounds. But why would the culprit mutilate an already dead body like that? Doesn't that seem weird? Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any real point in doing that. Wait, are you saying that sometime after we witnessed Hero getting stabbed, the culprit went back and stabbed him some more? That's what I thought at first, but I think I got it wrong. Those additional stab wounds might have already been there when we witnessed the stabbing. What? But that's impossible. Nein, ist es nicht. When the three of us saw Hero's corpse, there weren't any additional stab wounds. Ja, aber da hatte er seinen Mantel auch noch an, der plötzlich dann, als wir das nächste Mal da waren, weggeworfen war. When the three of us saw Hero's corpse, there weren't any additional stab wounds. Once again, you have to keep in mind that everything was dark. With Hero's clothes being pitch black, noticing blood seeping through them would have been impossible. Moreover, back then his jacket had been buttoned up. However, später lag die Jacke da einfach daneben, ne? When I found him again later, it was open, clearly letting me see his blood-drenched shirt. And now that I think about it, there actually weren't any signs of knife damages on his jacket. Meaning that he wasn't stabbed through it, but with his jacket open? Das hat er gesagt, ne? Yes, and since blood could be seen on the inside of it, the culprit must have buttoned it up after inflicting those additional wounds. So, at first they wanted to hide those wounds from us, but later opened up his jacket in order to make us aware of them? But why? Because in doing so, they could make us believe that those wounds had been added much later. After all, they needed us to think that Hiro had died the very moment we had opened that door. If we had seen all those other wounds back then, it would have immediately been clear that the stab to his throat hadn't killed him. I see. So first, Hiro was stabbed multiple times until he was dead, and then he was stabbed one more time in front of you guys. If you had actually witnessed the moment of his death, nothing would have been wrong with that. However, precisely because Hiro was already dead, that stab in the throat becomes strange. Indeed. Because again, why stab a dead body once more instead of escaping right away? The only reason for that could be that the culprit deliberately wanted to create witnesses. Man, it really looks like someone was trying to set up Carmen. I guess she really is innocent, isn't she? So does that mean that Momoko... Not so fast. While I admit that it's getting harder to deny Carmen's innocence, nothing's set in stone yet. We still don't know where she's been during all that. It's still possible that the person you saw was her. Maybe she just got panicky when she heard you knock at the door, and that's why she didn't try to escape immediately. He simply didn't want to give up on accusing Carmen, did he? Also, even if Raiko-chan's right with all of this, it doesn't mean that Momoko was the one who tried to frame Carmen. Huh? But who else could it have been? There's one other person who would make a lot more sense than her. Oh no, I could already tell that I wasn't going to like what was coming next. Sagt jetzt Runa, ne? Runa. Me? You've been a suspect from the start, and you sure would have been able to do it. Taiko, what the hell? Don't start this again. Runa's innocent. There's no way she could have killed Hiro. She was in the restrooms while Freundin Nobara and I witnessed the stabbing, remember? But can we be sure about that? What? Runa left the dining hall before you guys, and as I understand it, you never confirmed if she actually went to the restrooms. You headed straight for the second floor. For all we know, Runa could have gone there herself, killed Hiro, then disguised as Carmen, waited for you to arrive. Aber warum sollte sie das tun? You can't be serious! After letting you see her, she escaped through the window, hid in the thicket and waited for Raiko-chan to run past her. Once she was gone, Runa simply climbed back up to the second floor. Das war ja im Prinzip das, was ich schon mal gesagt habe, dann wurde es widerlegt, ne? Beziehungsweise es wurde nicht widerlegt, am Ende hieß es nur, es war falsch. Kikai-san, what are you saying? Are you nuts? How the heck would she have even managed to do that? Climbing back up to the second floor is impossible. It's not. Right, Raiko-chan? Rie immediately darted a glare at me that was saying you better not agree with him. Unfortunately for her, I had to. Climbing back up to the second floor had been very possible. All the culprit had needed to use was this. The red robe, aber das ist noch kein Hinweis, das ist noch kein Beweis dafür, dass es auch wirklich Runa war. What? I used the rope to climb down, remember? And I'm pretty sure it should have been possible to use it to climb back up. Even if that's true, it doesn't mean that Runa actually did so. What would make you even think that I did such a thing? Is it merely because no one confirmed whether I went to the restrooms or not? No, it's not just that. If I recall correctly, Raiko-chan said that after jumping out the window and meeting up with the others, they went back inside. Upon doing so, they came across you. Just as you returned from the second floor. What exactly were you doing up there? I thought you went to the restrooms. I did go to the restrooms. However, after hearing the commotion upstairs, I wanted to see what was going on. That's all. But it's strange, don't you think? After you came down from the second floor and the others went back up, the guest room was suddenly locked, wasn't it? Yeah, Rie and I definitely left the door open when we ran downstairs to check on Raiko-chan. But when the three of us went back up, it was locked. So you're saying that Runa was doing... That would appear to be the most obvious conclusion, wouldn't it? No, I swear I have nothing to do with that. I admit that Also mittlerweile glaube ich ihr das halt auch, ne? I admit that it might seem suspicious that the door was locked after I returned from the second floor, but you have to believe me. I couldn't open it myself. It was already locked when I arrived there. Taiko, seriously, stop it. How many more times must I say it? Runa has nothing to do with all of this. It's just an unfortunate coincidence. I know you don't like to hear this, but I warned you before. I'm not going to leave anything to chance anymore. It is a possibility, and therefore we need to discuss it. It's really bullshit possibility, though. To be fair, I had initially considered this possibility myself. At first glance it seemed to make sense, but after giving it a more thorough thought, there's no way Runa could have locked that guest room. After all, the door was never locked to begin with. What are you saying? It was! I unlocked it right in front of you, remember? Ja, das war aber nur, weil es der falsche Raum war. No, the room you unlocked wasn't the same one we found Hiro. That's why, when you opened it, his corpse appeared to have suddenly vanished. All the guest rooms in the resort are more or less identical, aren't they? At the very least, that's what Runa told us when we first arrived. Ja, genau. Und es gibt keine Special Themes und sowas, das wissen wir schon. Genau, es gibt kein Hell-Theme. Es gibt kein Hell-Theme, sehen alle gleich aus, die Räume. So. Bliblablub. Well, yeah. The interior is exactly the same for each room, except for some minor details, like some of the decorations. So then I really unlocked the wrong room? But that can't be. I'm sure it was the right one. After all, it had that... Genau, das Poster. Ah! Yes, the only reason why we thought it would be the correct room was this. Das Halloween-Sign. Genau das war's. We never paid much attention to the room numbers due to the darkness and commotion. However, there was one thing we have associated with a dreadful guest room, the Happy Halloween sign. Now, what do you think would happen if someone were to take that sign off and put it onto the neighboring door? And you're sure that's what happened? Yes. Genau, und so haben wir die falsche Tür aufgeschlossen. Before I investigated the guest room, I made sure to verify the room number beneath that sign. Therefore, I know without a doubt that the room in which Hiro and Momoko died was... Raum Nummer 209. So it was in room 209? Yes. But the room you unlocked was the one next door. 211. Both rooms are in the center of the corridor, since there was no electricity and the number of plates was covered by that Halloween sign. We never got to see it. The number plate, okay. Nicht Number of Plate, sondern Number Plate. Das reicht schon. We only knew that the corridor room had to be on the left side of the corridor, somewhere in the middle. Boah, das zieht sich gerade so lange hin, diese gesamte Erklärung, ne? Das ist so ein langer Part gerade. Aber ich will es jetzt nicht auch einfach mittendrin abbrechen. Ich bringe das jetzt noch zu Ende in diesem Part. So, by simply putting the sign on a different door, the culprit managed to mislead us. So, we really checked the wrong room, eh? But wait! You tried opening the other two doors, left and right as well, and neither of them would open. So how can that be if 209 was never actually locked? Naja, weil da wieder... First consider the following. All the guest room doors in this resort open inwards. In other words, you need to push the door into the room. Yeah, so... With that in mind, it's not hard to figure out what prevented me from opening the door. Das war der Drawer. Der davor geschoben wurde. There were traces on the tatami mats indicating that the drawer was pushed in front of the door. In other words, just like the breaker room, it was blocked from the inside. Ah, so that's why it didn't open? But what if we had tried to unlock it? The keys most likely wouldn't have fit into the lock. So it was the exact same thing as was used in the basement? Wisst ihr, ich habe immer noch keine Ahnung, warum Momoko das alles tun würde. Was ist das Motiv? Was ist das scheiß Motiv? Ist sie einfach nur psychisch gestört oder was ist am Ende die Erklärung dafür? Guess that explains a lot. And it means that Runa ain't got nothing to do with that door. Indeed. With the door only opening inwards, she would have needed to trap herself in order to block it. Ergo, the fact that she came downstairs already proves that she didn't. But that's not everything. What do you mean? There's one more reason why Runa couldn't have been the one who disguised herself as Carmen and escaped through the window. And coincidentally, it also proves that only Momoko can be the true culprit. What? Taiko seemed kinda shocked, but I had to admit that I was a little surprised too. I mean, I actually hadn't realized it myself until just now, but there really was one piece of evidence that could prove both these things at once. Alright then. Ich möchte gerade nochmal speichern, weil ich verkack das jetzt bestimmt gleich. Ich verkack da gleich was ganz schlimm. I guess we've taken all care of the major mysteries anyway. It's about time to put this whole discussion to rest. You've certainly shown that Momoko being the culprit is a legitimate possibility. However, so far, despite your promise in the beginning, you haven't provided any decisive proof of that. So this is your last chance. If you cannot prove it now, I'm afraid we will have to end this and leave the rest to the police. The atmosphere became more tense again, and everyone was stared at me in anticipation. My last chance, huh? Well, I guess it was time to fulfill my promise then. I had already proclaimed that there was one reason that should have further established Runa's innocence, as well as proven Momoko's guilt. And it had to do with the one thing both of them had in common tonight. If Runa truly had been the one to kill Hiro, then as a natural consequence, she would have also been the one I had chased outside. But that was impossible, weil sie zu langsam war und jetzt kommt das zerschnittene Kleid ins Spiel, ne? And why exactly would that be? Because of her clothing, of course. What? Cool? What does Runa's clothing have to do with anything? Everything, actually. Yes, the clothing was the key to everything that had happened here tonight. Runa's wearing a kimono, which is rather restrictive of leg movement. Boah, jetzt fliegt mir schon wieder irgendeine Fliege in den Mund. Bah! Ich hasse diese Fruchtfliegen. When she chased after Momoko with Hiro and Kamen, she was unable to keep up with them and fell behind. The exact same thing happened when all of us ran into the basement to save Kodoba. Because of her kimono, she couldn't run as fast as the rest of us. A coup! That's right! Runa is a total slowpoke! Well, it's just as Shinpuku-san says. Walking at a brisk pace is not much of an issue, but I could never actually run in this outfit without falling on my nose. Which means there's no way you could have jumped out of the window and run so fast. Wait a second, I admit that's true. However, Momoko was wearing the exact same kimono. So does everything you just said also apply to her? Nein, weil der zerschnitten war. Yeah, by proving that Runa couldn't have escaped through the window, you've also proven that Momoko couldn't have either. In other words, you've just disproven your own theory. Maybe you should let me finish first, because I'm not done yet. What? As opposed to Runa, Momoko wouldn't have had any troubles running in her kimono. And I can show you why. Momokos body. Weil, die sind damaged. Die sind an beiden Seiten aufgeschnitten, damit sie mehr Beinfreiheit hat. Und da waren sogar noch Blutstriche dran, dass man sehen konnte, dass das mit dem Messer aufgeschnitten wurde, nachdem Hiro erstochen wurde. I noticed something peculiar when I examined Momoko's body. Her kimono was cut open vertically along the legs on both sides. The cuts were quite clean, so they were most likely done on purpose by using a knife or something similar. So she cut her kimono open in order to move her legs more freely. How else would you explain those cuts? Fair enough. However, the cuts themselves still don't prove that she killed Hiro. They prove that she wanted more leg movement, but who can tell for what? Ja, aber die sind blutig. Also, I guess it would be possible that someone else inflicted them in order to mislead us. In any case, this cannot be deemed decisively evidence of her being a murderer. Why had I already expected such an answer? Oh well, it didn't matter. I wasn't out of ammo yet. He probably wasn't going to give up until I could prove it beyond a doubt. Prove that Momoko had been the one sitting on Hiro and stabbing him to death while wearing Kamen's costume. And in that case, there was one more thing I could do to show him. Something that clearly showed that Momoko had been wearing Kamen's hat and cape. Was denn? Da ist Hiros Blood dran, ja. Sind da irgendwelche Haare oder so von ihr dran? It consists of a head. Was genau willst du von mir? Tipp. Momoko is wearing Kamen's cape and had to frame her. To prove that, there was really one piece of evidence that I could present. Warum? Gibt's hier das Messer oder so? Das ist kein... Puh. Momokos Body nochmal. Vielleicht dieses, there's something else bothering about me about the body, but I can't quite put a finger on it. Wait, that doesn't make any sense now, does it? Hero's body. Was hat das? Muss ich das Witch-Kostüm vorzeigen? Ja, scheinbar, ne? Carmen's head and cape. I could have used both of them as evidence, but I guess one of them should have sufficed. So, which one was I going to talk about? Which one of those two items contained more conclusive traces of her wearing it tonight? Ich würde sagen, der Hut, da sind wahrscheinlich Haare dran. Carmen? Huh? You already told us that Momoko borrowed your hat and cape, but did you ever let her wear them before tonight? No. Tonight was the first time I ever let her wear them. Why are you asking? Yeah, what exactly are you getting at? Isn't it obvious? If she wore Momoko's hat, we should be able to find strands of pink-colored hairs. If she wore Momoko's hat? Inside it? Nein, okay. Hier haben die gerade tatsächlich Momoko mit Carmen verwechselt. And if we do, that wouldn't prove anything. Come on, Carmen, could be lying. Maybe she caught on to you and simply said that she never let Momoko wear that hat before. After all, it would benefit her if Momoko could have only worn it tonight. The word of a suspect cannot be trusted, so even if we would find Momoko's hair inside that hat, it couldn't be deemed decisive evidence. Was this guy ever going to give up? He was a lot more persistent than I thought. Oh well, I guess I had to show him the cape after all. Fine. Maybe not the hat, but the cape can still prove it. It proves that Momoko was wearing it when she stabbed Hiro. And how? There's some blood on it, which obviously got on there when Hiro was stabbed, meaning that some of it must have gotten into the culprit's actual clothes as well. However, do you see any blood on Carmen? No, but as you've said, the culprit was wearing the cape while committing the act, so we're talking about a cape here, not a hazmat suit. Ja, der deckt nur die Rückseite ab, das Cape. There's no way it could have absorbed all the blood splatter. We've talked about this before. Hiro's body was covered in countless stab wounds. His clothes were literally drenched in blood. The culprit stabbed him multiple times, creating quite the bloody mess. Do you honestly think a cape would have been able to catch all of that? Some of the blood definitely must have gotten onto the culprit's clothes. I'm afraid that does not seem to be the case, Shinpuku-san. If it really was as simple as spotting blood traces on someone's clothes, don't you think we would have identified the culprit long ago? Funny that you of all people are mentioning that, Runa. Ich meine, die haben doch Fake Blood auf ihrem Dings drauf, ne? Huh? What do you mean? Of course it wasn't simple to notice the blood traces on the culprit's clothes. Just take a look at yourself. There's blood all over the lower half of your kimono. But all of this blood is fake. That might be, but do you think it would be noticeable if some real blood got mixed into that? So you're saying that Hiro's blood splattered onto the culprit, but we didn't notice because the culprit's clothes had been blood-stained to begin with? Exactly. I'm pretty sure that a scientific analysis will prove my theory to be correct. However, if you don't want to wait until the police are done with that, I can prove it to you right now. Yes, it was time for the final decisive piece of evidence that was going to resolve this once and for all. The undeniable proof that some of Hiro's blood had gotten onto Momoko when she had stabbed him. What? Momokos Body. Sie hat das ja aufgeschnitten. Vielleicht geht es jetzt gerade um den Aufschnitt. Ne? Also den Aufschnitt. There's something else that struck to me as odd when I examined Momoko's body earlier. I couldn't quite put a finger on it, but I finally know what that was. First of all, if you look closely, you will notice that some of the bloodstains on her kimono appear to be cut off. Yeah. Now that begs the question, why is there only one half of a bloodstain? Because the other half is on the cape. Of course, you could argue that the shape of the stains is merely coincidental. However, there's something that even you won't be able to deny. Dass da ihr Seil drauf war. It might not be that obvious at first glance, but there's definitely more blood on her kimono now compared to earlier tonight. It's especially noticeable right below her chest. Ja, das Blut geht weiter nach oben. Yep. There are some stains that definitely haven't been there before. Weil da vorher der Gürtel, der Gürtel, sage ich schon, das Seil noch war. You're right. Furthermore, as you know, Momoko was wearing a red rope around her body earlier tonight. You could actually see traces of fake blood on it. The blood being on the rope means that she was already wearing it when the fake blood was applied to her costume, which means that there shouldn't be any blood beneath the rope. But when we found her, not only were there traces of blood on the exact line the rope had covered before, but also above it. Exactly. And I'm pretty sure they hadn't been there before and were never supposed to be there either. You can tell by just looking at Runa's costume, or... yeah. By comparing the bloodstains with the actual twin sisters from Twin Sacrifice. I never really got into that series, but I've seen so many adverts that even I can tell. Bis über die Dings geht das nicht. Bis über das Seil. There are no bloodstains above the red ropes, and as Runa told us earlier tonight, yeah, we try to replicate the kimonos as accurate as possible. Okay, macht Sinn. I have to admit that I quite enjoyed sullying the fabric with all this blood. Shinpuku-san is right. We were very thorough, and while the bloodstains obviously aren't 100% identical with those in the show, we certainly paid attention not to commit any glaring mistakes. And since I was helping Mori-san apply the fake blood, I can definitely confirm that there shouldn't be any stains on or above the area covered by the rope. In other words, those additional stains are actually real blood. Real blood that must have gotten on there when Momoko stabbed Hiro. Yes, only 3 of us had worn blood-stained clothes from the very beginning. Rie, Momoko, and Runa. Some blood definitely must have gotten onto the culprit when they had mutilated Hiro's body. Und Rie hat eigentlich fast die ganze Zeit ein Alibi gehabt, ne? Since no one else but those 3 had blood on them, and it had been sufficiently proven that neither Runa nor Rie could have been the one who we had seen upstairs, that only left one person. Momoko. She is the true culprit. The choice of her costume alone should make this crystal clear. She was the one who proposed to Runa to dress up as his twin sisters. And she specifically did so because this outfit was literally the perfect fit for her plan. The fake blood splatters to hide Hiro's real blood, the rope to climb down off the guest room and commit suicide with, and even the hair to pin everything on Carmen.
Huh? The hair? What you talking about?
One of the two sisters sports a hairstyle almost identical to Carmen's. It seemed odd to me that Momoko didn't ask her best friend to do this partner cosplay with her, especially since Carmen already looked the part. But now it makes sense, doesn't it? Weil sie diesen Part einnehmen wollte. From the very beginning, she had planned to disguise herself as Carmen.
But her hair looked just like always.
Yes, but it wasn't supposed to. Das liegt nur daran, dass Runa vergessen hat, das mitzubringen. Und eigentlich war geplant, dass sie diese Perücken haben. Think back to what Runa and Momoko talked about when we arrived here. Na komm, das können wir jetzt überspringen, das weiß ich schon. Das weiß ich schon. Weiter. Genau. Und sie hat nochmal darauf hingewiesen, dass Momoko extra gesagt hat, sie soll die nicht vergessen.
Alright, I remember that. Momoko really had planned this through, huh?
Yes. Unfortunately for her, Runa forgot the wigs. But I guess Momoko herself made some mistakes as well. Like hiding the cape and hat in the closet instead of burning them in the fire, for example. Nevertheless, she came up with quite an elaborate plan. And all to kill Hiro, Kotoba and herself as well, to blame everything on Carmen. As I said, just by looking at her costume, these facts should become clear. So, do you see now? Or are there still more objections? I waited a few moments to give him enough time to answer, but he wouldn't say a word. Instead, he simply stared at me with that grim expression of his. I guess I could take this as a no. Also, haben wir ihn überzeugt, ne? I closed my eyes, filled my lungs with air, and let out a deep sigh of relief. Considering how tenacious Taiko had been in this unwillingness to accept my theory, I had almost lost all hope that this moment would come. However, it looked as though he really had nothing left to counter with. The others also seemed convinced now that what I had told them was true. That Momoko really had been the mastermind behind all those terrible things. But even if anyone had still doubted me, we could have simply walked upstairs to compare the bloodstains on the cape and Momoko's body and... Nah, that's fine. I don't think that's necessary. You win. I believe you.